In 2009, a game was released that would change the gaming community's attitude towards licensed titles forever. What was once a sure sign of shovelware is now becoming a hint that this game might be the tie-in to your favourite licensed material that you've always wanted. This game was Batman Arkham Asylum. Such an exceptional franchise tie-in helped even more by the fact that it was a fantastic game all by itself. In my opinion, this is what made Arkham Asylum great. That even without the Batman license, if it was an original IP, the game would have still been phenomenal. Cut to 2013 and we see the third installment of the Batman Arkham series. Made by WB Games Montreal and not by Rocksteady, the devs of the first two titles, tensions were high amongst game fans as Batman Arkham Origins loomed on the horizon. Would it sour one of the greatest series of video games to appear in recent years, or would it lift the series even closer to greatness than it already was? The premise of Arkham Origins is simple. The game is set many years before the previous games, and features Batman as a much more immature, inexperienced character who struggles to keep check on his vigilante temper. The LAPD still see him as a murderer, and Batman is still yet to forge his alliance with Captain Gordon. Cue 8 of the world's most deadly assassins being sent after Batman with a $50 million bounty on his head. While this is a rather simple setup of the game's plot, the narrative is fantastic, developing into the most varied story of the series. We explore each of the game's characters, learning what makes them tick, why they do the things that they do. The gameplay of the game remains to be largely the same package we've seen in previous Arkham games, with both the main story and a large portion of side content and missions, which isn't a bad thing. However, due to this being a prequel, but needing to keep the same gameplay mechanics and make improvements from the previous games, WB Games Montreal fall heavily into the trap of ludonarrative dissonance. If you're unaware what ludonarrative dissonance is, it is a video game term which simply means that the gameplay and the narrative don't mesh together well, often sending conflicting and contrasting messages to the player. In the case of Batman Arkham Origins, many of the gadgets and abilities present in the Batman Arkham City game are present in Origins. However, Origins is a prequel, and many of the gadgets used in Arkham City were said to be in their prototype phases. The most notable of this is the Grapnel Boost, which is available from the very beginning of Origins. In addition, much of the technology seen throughout the gameplay area seems incredibly similar to that of Arkham City, proving even more dissonance, or instead suggesting that the game takes place only a few years before the events of Asylum and City. There are some improvements to the gameplay though, including an all-new detective mode, which sees you solving cases through the reconstruction of crime scenes, allowing you to simulate the event through time, meaning you are able to find objects and clues vital to solving the crime that you would have otherwise missed. However, the crime scenes lack an aspect of player agency. Rather than being allowed to come to any sort of your own conclusion, Batman analyzes all the clues by himself and tells the answer to himself, in true Captain Obvious style. In a game series famous for its collectibles known as Riddler challenges, which often gave the player challenging riddles to work out with little to no help, this is an unfortunate design shortcut. However, it is progress, and I hope we will see these features further improved upon in the future. We also see some improvements to the combat, including making it more challenging. You can no longer use the counter button to save yourself from any hit. You have to read your opponents, as you cannot counter until you have completed impact on an initiated strike. I feel this adds a great deal of depth onto what is a major draw to the series for a lot of people. There is something strangely hypnotic about mastering the combat of the Arkham series, so it's great to see them continuing to improve it and make it more challenging. Another large concern in any Arkham game are the boss fights. These were probably the weakest elements of the Batman Arkham Asylum game, offering little to no variety, and instead consisting of stun, 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 strike 5 times, repeat. In City, we saw this improve dramatically, giving some real player agency, with some highly intelligent boss battles taking place. In Origins, we don't see the intelligent design that we saw from City, but we do see variety. The bosses are often different and require different skills to take down. What was particularly great was they allowed the use of a variety of approaches. There was no one way to defeat a boss, there were a few. However, Coming from the previous game, this seems like the easy way out, and a lack of ambition to create a boss battle on the same level as Mr. Freeze. The collectibles also make a return, with Riddler's first encounter with Batman under the alias Enigma. Unfortunately, we see none of the riddles that the series is famous for, and instead lots of arbitrary and uninspired collectibles, with poor puzzles lacking any of the brilliance seen in the puzzles from Arkham City. The one high point of these collectibles is that finding all of them in a certain set unlocks an extortion file on one of the notable characters in the game. So, you get a nice bit of backstory to read if you so desire. The game also has a multiplayer developed by Splash Damage, and honestly I have nothing to say about it. A new addition to the series, it is completely unnecessary, lacks both breadth and depth, and does nothing to add to the experience of the rest of the game. However, it has a fantastic amount of polish, with custom, unique maps, great character customization, and an interesting and ambitious multiplayer game type, seeing the Joker gang, the Bane gang, and Batman and Robin duke it out with each other at the same time. So while unnecessary, to call the mode shoehorned in and tacked on would be doing Splash Damage disrespect which they don't deserve. My final point is also the biggest flaw in the game. It lacks polish, it lacks stability, especially on the PC version, and bugs occur that make you seriously question if they carried out any testing at all on the game. Many of you will have seen from my first video of the game that a glitch occurred that got Batman trapped inside a room with no way out. This glitch was unavoidable, it always happened, but strangely it only ever happened on the PC version of the game. Many other bugs occurred, including many crashes, audio cutouts and other errors. Patches meant to fix bugs often meant that I would struggle to even launch the game come the next time I wanted to play. This is simply unacceptable, especially in this day and age, when high-speed internet is commonplace and you'd struggle to find a video game fan over 18 who hasn't entered into a contractual beta test before. It stinks of laziness and really puts the game that WB Games Montreal have created in a poor light. It's even more of a shame considering the fact that the previous games have never struggled with performance issues before, especially taking note that WB Games Montreal themselves said that they don't want to be the guys that ruined Batman. Well, guess what? You kind of did, in a sense. Overall, Batman Arkham Origins is a great foray into the business for WB Games Montreal and a fantastic continuation of the franchise. However, due to laziness when it came to bug testing and polish, and a distinct lack of creativity and innovation when there was clearly room, leaves the player feeling that, while it was a good game, it could have been so much better. I give Batman Arkham Origins a 7 out of 10.